Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on Life Essentials, Determining Your Loved One's Needs. My name is Rochelle Chaplinsky. I'm one of the Senior Trust Officers here with BECU Trust Services, and I am really excited for this webinar today because both on a personal level and a professional level, it's going to answer a lot of questions that I face and then those that I work with face in day-to-day management of their loved ones, helping them know what to look for and when to ask questions. I'm joined here today by Jennifer Nazarowski from Village Plan. Village Plan is a local home care management and counseling company here to help the aging process go more smoothly. Jennifer is a licensed clinical independent social worker and a certified care manager. She has an emphasis in mental health and dementia. She completed her undergraduate studies at Pacific Lutheran University and earned her master's degree in social work from Walla Walla University. Her experience comes from working in the medical field for the past 15 years. She specializes in working with individuals who have developmental and severe chronic health needs and is a licensed mental health counselor. Jennifer is a strong advocate and enjoys assisting families and clients, navigating them through the barriers and obstacles of healthcare. She's an active member of the Aging Life Care Association, Multi-Care Institutional Review Board, and Healthcare Providers Council. She is also highly involved in her community church, music, and children's programs. She calls Tacoma her home and lives here with her husband and 2 sons, extended family, and 3 spoiled fur babies. Hank, her French bulldog, is not only loved by staff, but is a certified therapy dog who brings comfort and a smile regularly to clients. Right now, I'd love to turn it over to Jennifer, and please enjoy the presentation. If you do have questions throughout, make sure that you type them down in the chat box on your screen, and we'll try to get those questions answered. Again, looking forward to this presentation, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thanks so much. Thank you all for joining today. Hopefully there's nuggets of wisdom or little parts of this that resonate or help or bring some clarity to each and every one of you. As she said, feel free to put questions as they come up into the chat box. I have it open, so hopefully I'll see them. I am more than happy to, in real time, answer those questions. So if you see something that you'd like a little bit more info, please feel free to put that in there. All right, I not only love working with older populations, but I just love people in general. So happy to be here, happy to kind of walk through this stuff. It's super close to my heart, near and dear. So we'll get started and get my thing to go. Here we go. 1 second. My PowerPoint's not moving. Hold on. There we go. All right. So some of the things we're going to cover today in this webinar is what aspects of my family members' day-to-day functioning should I be paying attention to? You know, as we're traveling this life, this journey together with our family members or loved ones, whoever they may be, what are some things that would be helpful to be aware of and paying attention to? And in that, what are some red flags that will indicate that my loved one or family member needs some help, needs some assistance, or maybe even just some attention? And then how can I help? What are the legal aspects? What are the legal channels? What are the things that won't require legal assistance? What can I do in this process? And where can I turn for trusted assistance, guidance, direction, all those kind of fun words there. All right, and then some big questions to consider if you're starting to notice or many times will become aware of issues with a loved one from concerned neighbors or people in their social groups, whatever that may be. Maybe it's a doctor or family member, someone is starting to notice something is not quite the same. And we're always going to start with safety, right? It's the biggest one. It's something that everyone can get behind. everyone can understand. So is my loved one safe? And that can be a huge, huge arena of, are they safe physically? Are they making good decisions cognitively? Kind of walking through that. Second one would be, do they experience a good quality of life? Sometimes if an individual has their whole life been, more on the introverted side and really enjoys that quiet alone time in their older years, or, some of those, whatever it looks like, if they're living alone and we, the concerned family member is like, oh my goodness, mom never gets out anymore. Let's take a look and see, did she enjoy getting out before? So is there a change, right? Is there something that's causing a shift, a change? If it is, yeah, let's definitely consider that. And then which family member or professional will my loved one speak to maybe easiest, right? Like who, from knowledge that you know about your loved one, will they reach out to or trust? Or let's say always, dad is always, he'll ignore the rest of us, but he'll listen to his neurologist, right? Finding just that connection, if you can, of someone that has any bit of relationship history or interest, or something that is already a forged connection. If not, we'll help you figure that out. But if there is someone, generally there's someone that we can help identify that loved one will feel a little bit more comfortable talking to, and it may be you. All right, some of the topics we'll cover today, and just to be thinking about in general, there's a lot, right? When we think of a person, human beings are complex creatures. It's what makes us unique and special and beautiful and all the things. But there's a lot of little components that play into the overall well-being. And these are just some of the main topics that we'll kind of address as we go through. So nutrition, some questions to just kind of jog your memory, or think about, like prompt some questions as you're looking at your loved one's overall care needs. Is grocery shopping more difficult? We've seen definitely over the last couple of years that has been a whole new ball of challenge, right? Of going out. Maybe it's not because driving is a challenge, it's because we're concerned about COVID risk or exposure, or, or all the things. But without those extra complications, is grocery shopping in itself, is, making a list or walking up and down aisles or whatever it is there a challenge? Are you even aware that there may be a challenge with getting food into the home for your loved one? And are there nutritious foods in the home? Are you noticing that your loved one is only purchasing canned food because that's what they can manage, right? Because we need to just take a look. If there, isn't a balanced diet, is that going to cause issues in a different area, right? Let's say dad is on a congestive heart failure diet, so we're going to be watching for sodium, but it's really difficult to get out and buy nutritious groceries on a normal basis. So eating a lot of canned soup, right? That alone's got tons of sodium. It's going to cause a complication in a different area. Is your family member able to prepare meals? Are they only purchasing food that they can not have to cook? Or have you gone over and noticed that the stove is still on? All those kind of just big things to think about with food. Is it safe to use a stove or oven? Sometimes that's hard to know and we're not there on a regular basis, but just little drop-ins here and there, looking to see, is there anything awry? And then if there is, how do we embrace that? How do we talk about it? What do we do if there is a concern? All right, another big topic here of things to think about and kind of pay attention to. Are you noticing any changes in your loved one's hygiene habits? Is there food on their clothing when you are around them? Is there evidence of, maybe not showering as often. In general, it's not abnormal for older adults to not want to shower as often. It's a lot of work. Think about it, if standing up and doing a lot of movement is slower, takes more time, they're maybe not as active as they used to be. Sometimes we can be a little flexible, but if we're noticing really marked differences, that's the big keywords in this whole presentation, is big marked differences. So you're noticing, wow, the smell is way worse, or the hair is way greasier, things that are definitely not in the norm. Are appliances and water heaters working? Just asking those questions. If you're noticing maybe a change in hygiene, hey, how's the shower? Go take a look at the shower. Is it plugged up? Is it working? Is the hot water? Sometimes those things will happen, and either our loved one doesn't want to be a bother, or, if there are memory issues, they may forget that every time they turn that water on, hey, it doesn't get hot. Who knows? There's all kinds of little, we have to be a little bit of a detective sometimes in these components without being overly obtrusive, or, giving our loved one that feeling that we're just coming in there to root them out of their home. Are there physical impediments to their personal care? Are you noticing that, they can't bend over to tie the shoes, and so now their shoes are always untied and it's a trip hazard, right? Should we look at changing their shoes, getting a different shoe that's not going to cause that kind of issue there? All kinds of things. Some diagnosis will cause complications, thinking of even arthritis in the hands where the fingers won't bend as well. So maybe doing buttons on their clothes is a really big challenge, or thinking of a Parkinson's diagnosis where there's a lot of shaking. Will they be able to, hold a normal spoon? And feeding can be an issue. So therefore, there may be more food on their clothing. Just lots and lots of things to be aware of and think about when we're thinking about the whole picture of our loved one. Mobility and activity. Once again, think about your loved one and what's kind of been the normal for them. We're not going to magically come back into our loved one's life, and if they've been kind of really enjoying retirement and chilling out and not taking a 3-mile walk every day, when we become more aware and into their world, our goal isn't to, put them on a strenuous exercise program, but are they moving around, right? We say a lot in healthcare, if you don't move, you will lose it, right? So any kind of movement, any getting up, moving, taking a walk around the property, up and down the hallways, whatever. And in that, are you noticing that there is a difference in their gait? Are they shuffling their feet? Are there any recent falls? Are they complaining of feeling dizzy or lightheaded? Are they refusing to do physical activity that at one point, especially if we think of, a reasonable amount of recent time, right? In the last few months, last few years, is it something that an example, mom used to always take a walk around the block first thing in the morning. Has that stopped? Is there a reason why? Just having a very general, curious conversation. When's the last time they saw the optometrist? Are there problems with vision? Is there problems with hearing? Are there things that are causing them to not want to move as much? And just a general visit can give you a lot of this without even asking the pointed questions that will maybe make them feel defensive. But just watching them get up out of a chair, walk up and down off of a curb, how are they doing? Are there things that really give you, like, I know for me, it's like I catch my breath. Oh, right? If we're watching them and there's something that they're doing that makes you feel like they're going to fall, or if they do fall, or, one of those kind of things. So just some ideas to kind of keep in mind as you're watching them move around there. On to the safety of wherever they're living, if it's in their own home, if they're in an apartment, or if they're in even a retirement community, right? We really Did I see a hand go up? That was interesting. I don't know what that was. Did someone have a question? No? Okay. I saw a little hand go up on the screen. I don't know what that meant. Sorry about that. So even if they're in a retirement community of whatever that is, many times a family member will notice a change in their loved one in a very slight way before even a staff member, or you can, bring that perspective of, hey, this is a very different change in a personality of a loved one, or a physical attribute. So just no matter where they're at. But back to the safety element here of home environment. So are there railings that they can hold on to, of stairs or stairways or walkways, wherever they're living, in the bathroom, near the toilet, near the shower? Are there grab bars? Is their living space well lit? Sometimes we'll, go to visit and 3 light bulbs are burnt out, and it's way too much work to get up there and change them for our loved ones. So are their light bulbs working? Turn them on, turn them off, check it. Just take a look. That's going to help, right? If they can see, hopefully going to help with keeping them on their feet. Is the home in disrepair? Are there things that aren't working? Taking a, little walk around the house. Is the toilet flushing? Is it leaking? Is the bathroom sink leaking? Is there things that are just kind of falling apart? Maybe that your loved one isn't noticing or doesn't have the energy to address, doesn't really know how to even get that appointment scheduled, whatever it is. Here. Oh, goodness. Why my thing is being funny? Let's see. Okay. More about safety in the home. Does your loved one know how to use the phone, right? Sometimes we take a little step backwards and, hey, I'm going to get you this new device that is going to make your life easier. But if let's give it a try, right? Just a general easy conversation of, hey, who would you call in this situation? Or do you know where to find my phone number? Or whoever their emergency contact is, do they know how to call them? Are they comfortable calling them? Do they even know where their phone is? Is it charged? All those fun little kind of questions there. Do they need a personal alarm system? Basically, that's our life alerts, or something similar where they can wear it. They have them for your wrist or around your neck, or different places where if they fall, they can push it. Or a lot of them are really sophisticated now that if there's a fall, it will call automatically. Do they need that? Is there a concern that could help, preserve some dignity, preserve some independence with just a form of alerting someone? Do the door and windows lock and work? Does your loved one know to lock the front door? Do they lock the front door? Just paying attention, kind of getting a feel of what is their sense of just secure in their own environment. Are you noticing that every time you come over, the front door is unlocked? Is that abnormal? Was mom really diligent about that in the past, and now you're noticing that, oh, this is really strange? So really, a lot of it is our own detective work of, are we noticing something is changing or different? A nice one here is, who has spare keys to the home? Do you have one? Do you need one? Is there one anywhere just in case the door gets locked? Spare keys to the car, same thing. Sometimes as health declines or memory declines, keys get lost, and it's a really big hassle if there isn't a spare one somewhere. Just something to think about. Where is it? Who has it? Should we get one? All those kind of fun questions. And then medical issues. Oh, here's a whole new ball of wax, right? If we're starting to see or become aware, or your loved one is starting to talk about, I have more doctor's appointments, or there's a new diagnosis, or whatever, are they receiving regular routine medical care? Are you even aware of who their doctor is? Have you heard about that they now have 3 specialists, and who are they? Does your loved one need help getting to those appointments? Do they need help remembering those appointments? Is there assistance that you could offer maybe in just looking at the bills with them? Because all that can become very overwhelming and complicated quick. And then just regular dental vision care, right? Have they been to the dentist? Dental care is incredibly important as we age. It is a part of our body that can grab and hold infection really easy, and kind of a hidden place that can cause a lot of problems. So regular dental appointments, super important. Have they received a good, hearing test? That can make a big difference, right? We can sometimes feel like, oh my goodness, the conversation is just, Dad doesn't remember what I say. Well, is it because he's not hearing what you're saying, right? Could be one or the other, or it could be both, but sometimes that's really helpful. And then, is your family member able to remember and tell you what happened in those doctor's appointments? When they come back and say, yeah, I saw the oncologist today, and here's what they said. Maybe it's a 3-liner and we have questions, or we would like to know more, or what was the follow-up plan, or what was the next step? And many times it's like, I don't really know, it was vague in there. How do we maybe insert ourselves into going to those appointments, or joining virtually, or having a professional be a part of this process? Where do we even start that puzzle? Sometimes is really difficult. Of who are you even seeing? Well, I don't know. I think his name starts with an S. Just trying to get the beginning stages of being more involved. Sounds pretty easy as I'm talking about it today, but sometimes it can be a very touchy subject. As individuals are, embracing some of these really big life changes or challenges, the last thing they want is to feel like they need to answer to their children as well, or really concerned loved ones, not even just children. So know that it can be sensitive, touchy topics. It doesn't always just go incredibly smooth when we start these conversations. All right, next screen here. Continuation of medical issues, some just questions and things to think about. Are you noticing any confusion or disorientation, language difficulties, what we call a lot of times like word salad, or looking for words, forgetfulness? There's, of course, I like to say our brains as we age are kind of like computers, and sometimes there's so many files, it may take a little longer to find the file I'm looking for. That's not necessarily a change in cognition. But if you're noticing really big patterns of, I talked to mom on the phone yesterday, but when I called her today, there was no recollection of talking to me on the phone. She told me the exact same story, the exact same question, such as, are you going to Costco on Friday? If we have that conversation on Monday, I call her, we have the exact same conversation on Tuesday, and she calls me on Wednesday and is like, hey, how are you? Haven't talked to you in a long time. I really need some things from Costco. Are you able to go to Costco for me? If you're noticing really clear patterns of that, sometimes they're not clear, but just looking for those of things, no reason to panic, but just start. And I always encourage, start writing these things down, because it's hard for us to remember as well. Did she say that? Did she say this? What am I remembering? What am I forgetting? Are you noticing tremors, imbalance, changes in, when they pick something up? Is there a challenge holding it? Dropping things more often? Is there shakiness in especially extremities, hands, legs, those kind of things? Just keeping an eye out, watching, looking for it. Has your loved one signed a release to allow you to communicate with their medical providers? Many times that's just the first step is, hey mom, just in case there is a medical emergency, can we get some paperwork and let your medical providers know that it's okay to talk to me? Having those conversations of who do you want to talk for you or speak for you or speak on your behalf or answer those questions if something were to happen. And many times it's easiest here, just to say if there's a medical emergency, if you're in a car accident or if you're, something dramatic happens, who would you want your medical providers to talk to? So that way it's not, just saying, Mom, when you can't remember who you are, I'll be the one. Sometimes that doesn't go as well. So whatever kind of language is going to give them reassurance that you're not trying to just come in and take over, that's the goal. Because that isn't our goal. No one's goal is to come in and take over. It's really to walk alongside and support our loved ones. And then this last question here is, do you know what kind of insurance your loved one has? I know that sounds simple to say, but many times it's not, right? We all think, oh, Mom has Medicare. Yep, she probably does, but does she have a supplemental plan? Does she have an Advantage plan? Who is it? What are the basics of that? And what should we know about that? Like if she has this one, this is how much she's going to be paying here. And just ask, maybe she knows, maybe she doesn't. And maybe there's an insurance plan that's going to be better. So just kind of thinking of all those kind of big things. Medical and legal issues. Yeah, no one loves legal issues, me included. But we're going to try and do our best to stay ahead of that curve by making sure, does your loved one have a durable power of attorney for healthcare? Big one there, right? Do they have that in place that's going to allow you to know what's going on or to speak on their behalf if you need? If they have it, where is the document? Many times people will tell us, oh, yep, I did that 10 years ago. Well, essentially no good if no one has it or no one knows where it's at. So do you have one? Where is it? And is it still your wishes, right? So let's look at it if you can find it. And does it still say what you want it to say? Sometimes people will do it and then the person that they have assigned as their power of attorney is no longer a part of their everyday life. So let's look at it, make sure it's still your wishes. And then with that one, the second part is there a POLST? A POLST is basically going to be talking about for emergency care, really, it's green. If you're in the healthcare department at all, you'll know that it's what every emergency provider, let's say you're found down on your kitchen floor, the emergency support people are going to look for a POLST. Basically, it says your wishes if you want to be resuscitated. Do you want care to sustain life? Do you want medical intervention to go to the hospital? If you don't have one readily available, or it is not clearly posted, or you don't have someone standing there with the ability to provide proof, it's the law and their responsibility to provide medically intensive care. So if you feel really strongly, if your loved one feels really strongly against prevention or against intervention, they need this POLST, and a POLST has to be signed by a medical provider, so a doctor, with the individual and the doctor. They go through, what does that look like? What kind of intervention do you want? And then the second part of like a durable power of attorney is there's healthcare and there's finances. It can, many times, is the same person, but it can be different people, all according to what that looks like for your loved one. Do they want it to be the same one? Is there multiple siblings and you guys want to divvy up responsibilities? All those kind of things to think about. Always, always, always recommend working with an elder law attorney. They understand this stuff. They are gentle with your loved one. They, know exactly what is needed, what kind of language is going to support them if and when there is a emergency or a time that this needs to be activated. Definitely, even if you have a well-known, well-respected attorney, many times they'll say the same thing. Let's run it by an elder law attorney because it's their realm.
Jennifer, this is Rochelle. I just have a comment to make on this one. Oftentimes with individuals that we work with and clients that we work with, they often say that they have filled out a form with their physician authorizing who they can disclose information to. Can you provide a little bit more detail on that? Because I always push it back at them saying, if something happened to you on the weekend and your physician's office isn't open, you know, a durable power of attorney is an important document to have. Is that a true statement?
Absolutely. So the difference there is many times what they're filling out in a doctor's office or in even a medical setting, whatever that looks like, is it's really just a release of information. It's not necessarily giving your daughter, for example, the authority to make healthcare decisions, right? There's the difference. There is many times a doctor's office or a medical setting will say, I need you to sign this release so we can talk to your daughter, for example. But it's not necessarily giving that daughter the authorization to help make medical decisions. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much. It
Yes.
does. There's often questions around that, and so there's been a lot of confusion. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime that any of the documents come besides a POLST, P-O-L-S-T, that's the green form, any of those other ones generally that are originating from a medical setting are for like the doctor and whoever you're releasing the information for them to speak to each other, not, and I'm just generalizing the statement, but those generally are not to give any of the legal authority to make decisions. It's so conversations can be had in between. If you want it to be where someone, your loved one, whoever it is, to help make those decisions or provide care or guide care, it needs to be in this format, in that durable power of attorney through a lawyer, right? That's the difference, because then it is the only way to make sure that your wishes will be followed by the law. Hopefully that helps clear things up for you.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And if I go back one slide a little bit, it's the will, you know, your living will, advanced living will, all those kind of things. When you're working with an elder law attorney, they will go over all of those really traditional kind of pieces of that with you. The durable power of attorney is the most important document, but all those other ones many times are just part of that kind of planning. So just a plug for them. Go and kind of do that little package with them because they'll walk over all of it with you. All right, so social and emotional needs, when we're just kind of looking at questions and things to think about or look for. Does your loved one still drive? Do they have the ability to go out in the community without relying on you, a friend, a family member? Have you ridden in the car with them lately? Do you have any idea how their driving skills are? You know, are their reaction times really slow or are they doing great? Are there new dents and dings on the car? What does that liability look like if, you know, they're struggling with driving? There's a lot of conversation around that with, well, I don't feel comfortable with dad driving, but there's no way he's going to give up his driver's license. There are all kinds of very supportive ways. We can, you know, as a care manager, we can give tips and tricks, and there are ways to request the DOL can request them to come in and do a drive test, so then it's not you, the loved one, taking away their freedom. It's, you know, whatever's going on, that's just walking through those processes with them. And then, has your loved one experienced recent loss? You know, and change many times is needed and necessary and good, but also can bring a sense of loss. You know, even a move or loss of, you know, loved ones for sure, spouses, partners, friends, whatever. But even sometimes a move can bring a significant feeling of loss. So just being aware of that, are there support that we can put in place if that's something that you're noticing that they're struggling with? Is there depression? Is there anxiety? Are they withdrawing? What's just being aware. What other physical factors are contributing? So are you noticing that they're now different in that personality of, Dad used to be so friendly and outgoing, but ever since he moved into the assisted living facility, he just won't come out of his apartment anymore. Or, he keeps telling me how much he hates it and he just wants to move home. Are you noticing things like that? And then if you are, what do you do about it? Like, what kind of help can I get? What is going on? I don't know what to do. I thought this was the right move. Now what? So just things to be aware of there. The second to that is, are you noticing any concerning issues in that social and emotional need realm? Any hoarding behavior? Are you noticing now that trash is piling up in the house because it's too much work to take it out, or it's too much work to take the garbage can to the curb, or whatever is going on there. Concerns about alcoholism or substance abuse, yes, it still happens even in our older adults. Are you noticing it? That could be contributing to forgetfulness. It could be contributing to falls. What does that look like? What do you do about it if that's something that you're concerned about? Are there cognitive or physical impairments that are making them vulnerable to abuse or exploitation? Are you noticing that there's mail that they're returning, or there's huge withdrawals from their bank accounts that don't make sense? Or, there's all kinds. And as we all know, elder abuse is such a tricky topic because scammers are incredibly smart and wise and really know who to go after. So just being aware and paying attention, are there concerned people coming in and out of the house that you're concerned about, and then what to do about that if there are. All right. So finances and the role of the family. Oh yes, people really get kind of touchy on financial when we start asking questions about that. But once again, it's helpful to know, how do we help support them? How do we help keep exploitation or abuse? What are your loved ones' sources of income? Do you even know? Like how are they surviving? What are their main sources? Is it Social Security? Is it retirement? What is it? Having an idea, because that might be helpful if their health needs are increasing, and soon that may fall into your lap to be managing. Do you know if they have resources? And if they do, what is that net worth? That's really important as you start to map out care needs and care. What does that look like? Let's say there's a new diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, and we need to know there's a lot of care needs involved. What does that look like? And how do we fund that? How do we make sure Dad gets the care he wants and it has the ability to pay for? Does the family have a plan for their assets? So as we're looking at all that net worth and, possibly vacation homes or property or whatever, do we have a plan for how that's going to be allocated? What happens if and when a loved one passes away? We don't want it to get tied up unnecessarily or cause, a lot of family dynamics around, well, that was told to me or told to me this or whatever. So let's, as much preparation and conversations and mapping that out makes it a lot smoother. And then how does your loved one plan to pay for long-term care? I would easily and very confidently say most people, when you talk to them, start talking about, well, what does your kind of end of life long-term kind of plans look like? Most people tell you, well, I want to stay in my home as long as possible. And, if and when I want caregivers to come here and take care of me here, and I don't want to be a burden. And, that's most of our dreams and our goals. But many times it's really helpful to sit down and look at what does that look like? You know, if your home is your primary source of investment or wealth, sometimes it's not a fun conversation, but talking about when is the appropriate time to sell so that you have that wealth of money to pay for the care needs as you move forward. A little bit more there of, have you or another family member discussed care preferences and care options before those care needs are now like right here, right? Do we know if it really matters to mom or dad or sister or brother, whoever we're talking about here, what those care options are and what they are absolutely against? It's really nice to know before you're just stuck sitting there with a social worker or someone, and they're saying, okay, what do we do? And you're like, I have no idea what they would have wanted. Sometimes what we want and what we get, you know, we do our best to match those, but it just helps to know kind of what the preferences are. Does a family member know the financial status, right? Kind of talking about that. Do we know if there's finances? Do we know if they have paid their Medicare bill? Like, is insurance even an option here? What does that look like? Is there a professional financial person involved? Many times there is, and sometimes we don't even know about them. There's a financial advisor who knows about a long-term care insurance policy. That could be incredibly helpful, right? So just trying to get an idea of the whole picture of what your loved one's whole needs are, what they have already put in place. Sometimes it's easy to forget about those kind of things. So just who have they been working with? Do they have people in their circle that will be able to help in this puzzle? And then back to, do they have that power of attorney? Where's the document? Who's the attorney? Are you aware that you are the power of attorney? Because just a fun fact, when anyone is doing a power of attorney, you don't have to sign it. Only the person creating it signs it. So, hey mom, who is your power of attorney? You may be surprised to know it's you. All right, tips for planning out the care. I gave a ton of things to think about, look at, ask those questions. But some of this is gathering as much information as you can in the least intrusive way as possible, not setting your loved one's nerves on end because you won't stop asking really intrusive questions, but gathering the facts, right? What does the kind of big picture look like? Understanding their preferences. What's their desire? Where are they at in this process? What do they wish for? What are they, understanding? What does their reality look like here? And then start to prioritize. Okay, we've got it. We kind of get it. We understand what you're wanting. Now let's start to kind of make that map. What does it really look like? What are the big things we need to take care of? Is that toilet leaking? Let's go fix that before it, rots the floor and all the other things. What financial resources are needed? Are we now aware that, oh my goodness, this pot of money is just about dry, and then what's mom going to do? She's been fine because she's had that cushion, but now as I'm taking a look at everything, holy moly, we need to reallocate or figure out something different. Family involvement. Is there other support, right? It doesn't necessarily, we don't have to take it all on. Sometimes we do, if we're the only one available or willing, or maybe the only child or whatever. But let's look at that. What does that look like? Is it realistic? Is it possible? Let's share if we can. And then as you kind of get that whole landscape as you're working through it, is it a good idea to include professional help here? And what is professional help in this aging world, this realm? What does that look like? Sometimes that's a little intimidating or scary because I don't even know what that means or what that looks like, or does that apply to us? Is it too early? Is it too late? All those kind of questions. Truthfully, you're not alone, right? We we can logically know that. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but there are, just as, I'm here today presenting from a care management led company, there are people who specialize in all of this. We dedicate our lives and our energy into understanding what to look for, how to navigate that, tips and tricks and tools along the way of, hey, this is a general idea of what to look for in this kind of situation. But definitely as care managers, our goal and our role is to help really make the plan with the client, the individual, your loved one, you in the middle of the circle. What matters? Because we can know all day long, here's the best way to do this or that, but that doesn't tell us your story. It doesn't tell us your preferences or your desires. So really taking you from that middle piece here and then working out, looking at all the pieces, tying it together. I say all the time, a good care manager is like the putty in between all the cracks. We don't bring all the answers or the solutions necessarily, but we help connect all the dots together and hopefully take some of that load off of the loved one trying to figure out this whole puzzle. So a little bit about what a care management or a care manager is. A care manager is a geriatric or a professional that really works hard on understanding the full person, the healthcare system, understanding what challenges are pretty common in this world or this realm. And we don't only work with geriatric populations, we also work with, people who are having chronic health issues. Sometimes that looks like a traumatic brain injury or severe mental health diagnosis. A care manager really is that putty. It's that liaison between the individual, the family members, doctors, professionals, anyone, what we call an external treatment team, anyone that's involved, whatever, financial planners, however that's involved, educating, assessing, helping bring all this together, making sure everyone's talking to each other, that you, the individual, you, the family member, your desires and words are being heard and valued and understood. Because sometimes it gets, especially if there's a crisis, people just kind of start taking over and the person in the middle, the individual voice kind of gets squelched. You'll have specialists saying, well, they need to do this and they have to do this and they have to take this medication, when in truth, the individual's like, but I don't want any of that. Can someone just listen and give me a moment to process, right? So a care manager many times will be that buffer and also kind of gather all the information to give to all of you, the individual, or you, the family members, however that looks. And our care managers here at Village Plan, we're all part of the Aging Life Care Association, which is a national accreditation, which makes sure that, we all have the same basics of understanding and we're bringing forward that same quality of care. So it ethical values, and we're protecting your rights, and we're not taking advantage of you from a business perspective. So just it's a nice extra buffer there to give confidence that we're working at that high level of professionalism there. And ALCA's really cool, this Aging Life Care, because let's say you live here, but your family member, your mom, let's say, lives in Arizona. So this association can help connect. And we, because we're part of it, we can help connect you with a care manager wherever you are or your family member is. So a really kind of cool thing there across the nation. And then I just had one little story to share here at the end to kind of make this all, wrap it all up, kind of make it make sense. So the story of mom at home living alone. So mom had always been incredibly independent and proud that at her age, mom's 92, She remained fit with good mental capacity. Me, as the only daughter, living hundreds of miles away from mom who lived in Seattle, I had to trust that she was okay. My brother, who lived in town, hired a care manager to assist with the coordination of her multiple medical appointments and medications. He worked full time. He was like, this isn't my gig. I need a professional to come in and help manage. I'm happy to be an emotional support and, but I can't take her to all these appointments and whatever. So I, as the daughter, didn't like the plan until I went home for a visit. I didn't realize mom's care needs had increased. I thought he was being a little too hasty in his, judgment of hiring a care manager. I didn't think mom really needed that much care until I went to visit. She was happy to see me, but I could immediately tell something was different and something was wrong. My mom had always been a tidy housekeeper, and yet when I looked around, her house was a mess. Looking closer, I realized what she was telling me over the phone wasn't really the truth. It wasn't a reality. Her memory and ability to function were actually deteriorating. I couldn't really tell that over the phone. Over the next several days, I agreed to meet with a care manager who I did find out was really good at her job. She'd been doing this for a long time, helping take care of older adults and support their family members along the way. This care manager told me that the long list of medications and medical concerns and some of the connections she was already making of some of the meds were actually making my mom's symptoms worse, and how she would advocate with the doctors to look at those more close. This care manager was a nurse, so she organized the medications in a nice, easy to use box that mom could see, that would have a recording so we could all know what was going on and if she was taking them and when she was taking them. My mom actually really liked this nurse. She trusted her, and I could see at that point how valuable this care manager was going to be, not only for mom's care, but for my own sanity. Towards the end of my visit, we all came up with a plan that worked best for mom and for me and my brother. The next day, as I began my trip back home, I now had a better idea of how to support my mom and what a care manager's role could be in helping support us on this journey of aging. All right, that's my little story. I'd love to know if there's any questions or comments that I can answer. There's a lot of information I know I threw at you today.
Jennifer, this is Rochelle. I have a question that I thought of as you were going through. In our work as trust professionals here at BECU, we often work closely with individuals who on their financial needs, and we become that trusted person that they talk to and
Absolutely.
share information with. And sometimes we hear things before family even does. Do you find it common in the things you do in your practice that families sometimes can be in denial when they are informed of changes that they may not necessarily see or want to see? And how do you navigate through that conversation to get help for somebody who wants help, but family's not willing to do it?
Yeah, great question. And I feel like it has so many layers, right? Of the sheer, and hopefully that little story I was reading at the end there it's helpful in that, because it's many times it's just the level of awareness, right? If that family member maybe isn't seeing the day-to-day challenges or the whole picture, it's really easy for, and this is not a critique, but it's really easy for us to check in with mom or dad, once a week and be like, oh, they're doing great. And then it feels like it comes out of the blue sometimes from a professional or, a concerned family member of, hey, I'm noticing this, or there's this going on. And it's scary, right? And then if we're being really honest with ourselves as the loved one or the child or whoever it is, that feels really shocking or Like, no way. There's no way. No, dad's fine. I mean, I talk to him every week. And many times it's just being easy and gentle and, encouraging that family member, you know, I'm just one person in this puzzle, and this is what I'm noticing, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm seeing, this is what your loved one is sharing. I'm just asking for a little bit of curiosity and, gathering of your own perspective. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they'll still stick to it. That no, no, no. And many times it's really kind of walking that with them of what are the options, right? So if your member is the individual, let's say the client here with maybe some short-term memory loss, and they're coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'm really struggling to remember to pay my bills. I want to, but I've noticed that I keep getting late notices and I don't really know what's going on. I've told my son, but he doesn't really get it. He's just like, yeah, it's fine, Dad, just do it. I'll help you out." But maybe they're struggling with that. So us as professionals or concerned family members or loved ones is really helping bring forward what are the real resources in the community that can help support whatever that need is. Does that help?
Perfect. And it does. And that's, part of, what we like doing here is building up our toolbox of resources. And
Right.
there's professionals that do a bunch of different things. I did notice that in the question box, there was a comment that was made. And, I'd love to share it. One of our attendees said they had a recent experience that they ran across that they wanted to share, and that was to confirm that your attorney, in fact, over healthcare can carry out their duties and there's no conflict. In this particular situation that they experienced, the attorney, in fact, over healthcare had religious beliefs that did not align with
Mm-hmm.
the principal person giving authority. And I think that you mentioned it when you said that oftentimes people could just write individuals in, and conversations may never been had, that you're appointing this individual as your agent to act on your behalf and make decisions. And this comment here really goes to show that, whoever you are appointing, having that conversation is good to make sure that your care and your wishes align with what their beliefs are.
So true. It's so true. And it's, many times we as care managers are working with not only the client, but also the family members. And so it's very different conversations on both sides of that table, right? Of with the client themselves, the older adult in this situation, many times how we'll get engagement from them is you are helping your children, your spouse, whoever your loved ones, not have to make those really difficult decisions at the time of a medical crisis or whatever. And so, in truth, by having these difficult conversations right now, you're saving a lot of heartache or conflict, especially if there's multiple differing opinions, right? Maybe a newer spouse or, multiple blended family sibling dynamics, right? So really putting that power back in the individual's court. Let's lay it out. Let's have some of those difficult conversations now so that your loved ones, because no one really wants to be a burden. And so when we say it in those ways, sometimes it helps give that platform to say, this is what I wanted, and I'm helping you all in the future not have to make these really difficult decisions on your own or against differing opinions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see any questions in the chat. I know we're coming up on the hour. Did you have any that were sent directly to you?
I'm seeing one here that says, what techniques or talking points can an adult child use to bring an aging parent to the table to discuss these important issues when they're resisting discussing these issues? I feel like I kind of just addressed it there of many times just gently, reminding or bringing up the conversation of, hey, I know that this isn't fun. No one likes to think about emergency situations, but you know, we all pay for car insurance for just in case, right? And once again, reminding them of if they've ever been in a situation, anyone in the hospital or ICU or hospice or whatever, and having to make those decisions, when the whole medical team is looking at you like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And it's so helpful, and it's a way. It doesn't always work. Sometimes the individual is like, that doesn't change my mind one bit. I'm not going to talk about this. This is ridiculous. I don't like it. I'm not going to. But sometimes it works. Just encouraging them that this is going to be helpful for me in the future. Not anything more. I'm not trying to put you in your grave. I'm not trying to intimidate you. In that same vein, though, I would say many times we have to try, back up, try, because it's such a big, huge, feels like roadblock.
And I think you mentioned earlier too about, trusted individuals and maybe bringing somebody to the table who they feel is an ally of theirs in the conversation. They will feel, less attacked if they have somebody there that they trust. And they don't feel like their child is trying to tell them what to do.
Absolutely. And sometimes, I'm not only just, being salesy here, but many times that is where you'll see like a care manager really shine, is we're a third party, non-emotionally involved participant in this conversation. And many times your loved one will feel at more ease to talk about these really emotionally charged topics with someone that's not their child or someone that's not their spouse. And that's not a personal, conflict necessarily, or it shouldn't be, or, but I'm her daughter. Yeah, but sometimes it's just too sensitive, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for giving this presentation. A lot of great information. For those of you on the call, you will be receiving a follow-up email with a survey in there. If you can take those survey questions and provide us feedback on the presentation, as well as let us know if you would like somebody to reach out to you in further conversations. We'd be happy to connect with you and have conversations and see how we can help you and your loved ones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.